Climate change is happening, from erratic rainfall patterns, extreme droughts, to floods, wildfires, and storms. The threats due to climate change are real. But while the effects of climate change are devastating, the efforts to tackle it are also growing, with countries coming together to mitigate its impact and safeguard the environment for future generations. As the COP26 is underway in Glasgow, United Kingdom, we take a look at what it is all about, why world leaders are meeting there, and what the goals of COP26 are. Hello and namaste, I am Richa Dwivedi and you are watching NIJ Explained. So what is COP? In simple terms, COP26 is the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference held under the UNFCCC, or the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. COP stands for Conference of the Parties. This is the 26th COP Summit. Parties here are the countries that the United Nations has been bringing together for global climate summits. The summit will take place for 12 days from October 31st to November 12th. 2021, where negotiators, government representatives, businesses, and citizens will participate in talks on climate change. The summit was to take place last year, but due to the pandemic, it is taking place this year. In 2015, at the COP21 in Paris, the Paris Agreement came into being. This agreement, signed by 196 parties, aimed at reducing emissions of greenhouse gases and to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees and aim for 1.5 degrees, to adapt to the impacts of climate change and to make finances available to deliver on these aims. Under the Paris Agreement, countries committed to bringing forward national plans known as Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs, setting out how much they would reduce their emissions. They agreed that every 5 years they would come back with an updated plan that would reflect their highest possible ambition at that time. However, the commitments laid out in Paris did not come close to limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. A number of countries did not revise their NDCs before the COP26. Given the window to achieve this is closing, nations need to be decisive in achieving this goal and accordingly step up their plans. Well, the official agenda of COP26 is to finalize the rules and procedures of the Paris Agreement. Note that these were supposed to be finalized by 2018. Now let's take a look at the goals of COP26. The first goal is to secure global net zero by mid-century and to keep 1.5 degrees within reach. Most of the discussions ahead of the meeting have been around an effort to get all countries to this target. This has been a contentious issue dividing developed and developing nations. To deliver on these stretching targets, countries will need to accelerate the phase-out of coal, curtail deforestation, speed up the switch to electric vehicles, encourage investment in renewables. The second goal is to adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. This is to protect and restore ecosystems and build defenses, warning systems, and resilient infrastructure and agriculture to avoid loss of homes, livelihoods, and lives. The third goal is to mobilize finance. Now, developing nations need to make available funds to help developing nations attain the net zero target. At least $100 billion are to be mobilized. The fourth goal is to work together to deliver. This is to be done by finalizing the Paris Rulebook and accelerating action to tackle the climate crisis through collaboration between governments, businesses, and civil society. Now, let's take a look at where India stands in all of this. To begin with, India does not have a net zero emission target. India is working a calibrated stand on the concept on climate justice on 4 issues: temperature, mitigation, finance, and responsibility, by building a counter against the shifting goalposts by the developed world. India is likely to go in with climate justice for climate change stance, highlighting the claims of the developing world that developed nations have been shifting their goalposts right from the Kyoto Protocol to Paris Agreement, and that developed countries have been using the zero emission idea to evade their responsibility and shift the onus on developing countries like India. Before we look at what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said at the COP26 summit, let's look at what some of India's 2015 Paris Agreement NDCs were. to reduce the emissions intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level, to achieve about 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy sources by 2030, and to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent through additional forest and tree cover by 2030. In August this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had announced that India had already installed 100 gigawatts of renewable energy, adding that India is the only country among G20 nations that is progressing rapidly to meet its climate goals. India has set a target of 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by the end of 2030. In fact, with the launch of the National Hydrogen Mission this year by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India's plan to combat climate change by adapting clean energy is on track. India has also urged the G20 nations to bring down per capita emissions to global average. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his address at the COP26 summit, highlighted the need to address climate change issues, including equitable distribution of carbon space, support for mitigation and adaptation and resilience building measures, mobilization of finance, technology transfer, and importance of sustainable lifestyles. So far, there was no net zero target for India like we mentioned earlier, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi took the world by surprise when he declared that India will achieve the net zero target by 2070. While delivering India's national statement at the summit, Prime Minister Modi delivered India's Panchamrit gift to the world to fight climate change, to raise the non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity of the country by 500 gigawatts by 2030. By 2030, India will fulfill 50% of its energy requirement through renewable energy. India will cut down its net projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now till 2030. By 2030, India will bring down the carbon intensity of its economy by more than 45%. By 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. Prime Minister Modi also drew attention to the plight of small farmers facing the effects of climate change in India that forces them to make changes in their cropping patterns. He stressed the need to adopt knowledge from traditional communities living close to nature and made a case to focus on climate adaptation as well. He also referred to India's adaptation policies such as the Clean India Mission and Ujjwala Yojana at the forum. So that was all from us today. Do let us know in the comments how you found this video. Until next time, this is Richa Dwivedi signing off. Dhanyavad and Namaste.